Janice and I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be talking about the 9 things that you have to try whenever you're in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Now, before we start this video, I want you to go down and guess at least one thing that you think is going to be on the list. You can't guess pho because we both know that will be on the list. I just wanted to see, how well I did at capturing these 9 things and whether I'm completely off. And if I am completely off, well, I'll just have to go back to Vietnam again. Alright, without further ado, let's start with the most obvious item on this list. Pho. Now, I already know I'm going to mispronounce some of the food items on this list, so I apologize in advance. You really should have at least one bowl of pho when you visit Vietnam, and trust me, I had multiple bowls when I was there. Pho is a Vietnamese soup that is typically made with a beef bone broth with pho noodles and some type of meat, typically beef or chicken. Often served with bean sprouts and other fresh herbs on the side. This smells so good. It is truly amazing. Okay, excuse my hair. It is just way too hot to not have my hair tied up, so you're just gonna have to deal with me looking like this for the next 5 minutes. Without further ado, I'm gonna try the broth. It's very light, like a lot of the pho broths that we've had, but it's very flavoursome at the same time. It's a bit saltier than some of the other ones we've had, but it's really, really good. Okay, let's try the noodles. I don't know if it's because I'm extra hungry today, but this bowl of pho, it's absolutely delicious. The noodles are, it's not too chewy, but it's definitely not mushy either. And it's like each strand has like the broth flavor there as well. Of course, I cannot finish this review of the pho without actually talking about the beef itself. Beef is really tender. Compared to some of the other beef I've had at other pho places, the beef here is actually the most tender of all the other ones I've had. This is actually a special pho. It has like a bunch of different beef goodies, such as like beef tendons, beef balls, beef brisket. The pho here is actually one of the best phos I've had since being in Vietnam. The beef flavor is strong. And next up on the list, we have bo co, which is a Vietnamese beef stew. Now, I've never actually had this prior to coming to Vietnam, but man, I cannot wait to have it again. Bo co is similar to a beef pot stew. The beef gets so tender, you can literally flake it with a fork, or in my situation, a chopstick. But the difference between a bo co and your typical beef stew is that it is quite fragrant with things like lemongrass, star anise, and cinnamon. Okay, first things first, with any noodles, we gotta try the broth. The broth itself is actually quite dense and quite heavy. It tastes a little bit like minestrone soup. Let's try the actual beef. Wow, the beef is so tender. Oh my gosh, I need to have another one. Okay, let me give you a close-up of how amazing that beef is. Just give me 1 second. It is so extremely tender and it absolutely just soaks up the broth. All right, now let's try the noodles. I know it's just instant noodles, but you know what? Maybe with the broth combined with beef, it might taste different to the instant noodles I typically have. I love it. I love this dish for the broth, and I love this dish for the beef. And I love this carrot because I haven't had vegetables for a week. I don't know why I find it so hard to get veggies in when I travel, but that carrot was delicious. Anyway, next up on the list is banh. This is a Vietnamese version of steak and eggs. It is typically served on a hot plate, and it has meat, eggs, and pate. Hot plate, and this was the menu. I have no idea how to read Vietnamese at all, and I tried Google Translate. It didn't help much at all. We just sort of took a chance. I pointed at 2 things, and that's what we're having for dinner tonight. Turns out we ordered a set meal because it came with Coke. This is Coke. It's Coke. And then we also have two baguettes, which I'm assuming we dip into the hot plate. I found 2 alive ants and 2 dead ants on the bread roll. But we picked it up because we don't need that extra protein for tonight. We'll be getting a lot of steak. This was one of the more typical versions of banh with beef, fried egg and pate. And in the house special there was steak, onions, sausage, spam, ham, eggs and pate. Really good actually. Oh, and I forgot to add, there's also sardines and a slab of cheese which you can spread on your baguette. I believe this dish is typically eaten with a baguette, but in my opinion it would be perfect with a bowl of rice. Now speaking of rice, I can't not mention broken rice. Broken rice is a very popular comfort food here in Vietnam, and they're exactly what they sound like. Broken pieces on an otherwise whole grain of rice. It's not defective, it's just fragmented. They have a slightly chewier texture, but for the most part taste exactly the same as like a whole grain of rice. Now, I'm a phan thong, which means I eat a lot of rice, and broken rice is definitely something that I can get behind. Number 5 on this list is a banh mi, a Vietnamese baguette typically filled with meat, pickled vegetables, chili, fish sauce and pate. I've got something that is a very iconic Vietnamese food, and I've got myself a barbecue pork banh mi. It is essentially a bread roll with barbecue pork. They've got a bunch of different types of veggies in the bread roll as well. The flavors are there, the pork tastes great, the veggies are very crunchy. The only thing is I wish that the bread roll itself was toasted. That would make it perfect. But it's not bad at all. I'm starving and this definitely hits the spot. And number 6 on this list is a type of noodle dish that I've never tried before. The Ho Chi MInh. This actually translates to Phnom Penh noodle soup. Although I believe it has its roots in Cambodian and Chinese flavors, it is actually a very popular dish here in Ho Chi Minh City. Typically made with pork bones, and it's served with noodles that are quite chewy and starchy in texture. Mine had pork slices, a prawn and quail eggs, which I initially thought were fish balls. That is so good. Okay, these noodles are like a mix between 2 noodles. It's like a mix between vermicelli noodles and your pho noodles. It's quite dense and it's quite chewy, and it's not light like a vermicelli. Having said that though, it's really good, and it soaks up the broth really well as well. It wasn't a particularly over-the-top type of dish, but it hits the spot. The soup was amazingly flavorful, the noodles were quite chewy, which is exactly how I like it, and overall it was just delicious. I went back multiple times and I would totally go back again. And number 7 on this list is Vietnamese coffee. If you know me well, you will know that I love coffee. I made an entire video just on Vietnamese coffee where I tried their iced coffee, their egg coffee and their coconut coffee. So coffee in Vietnam typically uses Robusta beans, which is quite strong in flavor and also a little bit bitter. But when you pair that with condensed milk, oh my gosh, it is amazing. Check this video out if you want to see in detail one of the best places to get Vietnamese coffee when in Ho Chi Minh City. And second last on this list, please note that this list is in no particular order, is rice paper rolls. One thing that you really have to try when you're in Vietnam is the rice paper rolls. This one has prawns and a small slice of pork on the inside and wrapped in rice paper. The sauce is usually a hoisin sauce. It is so good and it's so fresh. When you come to Vietnam, you really have to get one of these. You won't regret it. And last, but definitely not least, check out the street food. One of my favorite street food snacks that I had was the Vietnamese style pizza. It was made with a grilled rice paper as the base with toppings such as quail eggs, corn, some shallots, and it was delicious. Another one was the quail egg cake. That was also delicious. I got my fix of Vietnamese street food snacks from Turtle Lake. It's got really cool vibes, lots of cheap and delicious eats, and if you get a chance, you should definitely check that place out. But if you don't get a chance, you should definitely check my video out right here. Alright, that is it for today. Let me know in the comments below if I've missed anything from this list. If you're still watching this video, thank you so much for watching till the end. I post new videos every Tuesdays and Fridays, so check them out if you have time. Have an amazing rest of the week, and I will see you on Friday. Bye!